Welcome to this wonderful, informative, and exciting program that is tailored to assist our students to do well in academics, do well in exams, and transit to higher institutions of learning. I'm one person who believes that every student in a secondary school has the capacity to do very well. Every student has the potential, has the ability, have the capacity, the ability and the potential to do very well. And that is why in the course of this session, I will be exposing the students who are watching me to the very important skills that they need to acquire so that they begin doing very well. Don't worry about how you have been performing. You may not have been doing well in the past. You never did well in Form 1, never did well in Form 2, never did well in Form 3. But I'm telling you, you will do well in Form 4, you will do well in KCSE, once you can actually be able to acquire these skills that I will be exposing you in the course of this program. So my name is Abraham Mutua, a national motivational speaker. I'm also an author, and I was also a teacher in a secondary school for 12 years. I've done motivation for 10 years, I have a wealth of experience, I've assisted thousands and thousands of students to transit to university. And this program will take you from where you are now to where you're supposed to be. So the topic of my presentation is how to study smart, not hard. How to study smart, not hard. You realize that most of these students who are doing very well, they've learned how to study smart, not just study. You know, you need to study hard, but also you need to study smart. But the most critical is how do we study in a very smart way? How do we study in a very smart way? So that the material that we are studying we retain. The material that our teachers are teaching us in class we retain. Because actually the missing link I've realized in my time as a teacher, my time as a motivational speaker, is that there is always a disparity. Teachers are teaching, teachers are finishing the syllabus, but the students are not reproducing the material in an exam. Students are studying very hard, sometimes up to 12, but in an exam they are not performing. So there is always a missing link. And the missing link in this case is how do we study in such a way that everything we are studying we can retain in our mind, and then we can actually be able to reproduce that material in an examination room. So the first thing I want to discuss is how to use study groups. Using study groups. Because maybe you've been told that study groups are very effective. Study groups are very beneficial. They are very effective. Every time you expose yourself to study groups, you learn a lot because you share ideas with your friends. Also, another benefit of a study group is that in a study group, you are given an opportunity to explain what you know to your colleagues. And you see, research has demonstrated that every time you explain what you know to your colleagues, you end up understanding it better. And also, in the course of that interaction again, your colleagues will also be explaining to you some concept that you may not have come across. So it's a win-win kind of a situation. I want first of all to highlight some of the benefits of joining a group discussion. One of the benefits of joining a group discussion or participating in a group discussion is improve your notes. Improve your notes. You realize that when a teacher is teaching in class, you are writing notes as a teacher is teaching. But you realize that there are some gaps that can exist. Maybe you never quoted some areas properly, you never written some notes. But you see, in a group discussion, you can compare your notes with your friends and see where the gaps are. And you can actually be able to miss those, you will be able to fill those gaps. Also, as you're comparing your notes with your friends, you can also realize that if you are missing some notes, you can actually copy those notes from your friends. So group discussions gives you an opportunity to improve your notes. Improve your notes by filling gaps that may exist. Another benefit of a group discussion is sharing talents. Sharing talents. Because what you need to understand is that every individual, every student has specific talents and unique insights, and they have a unique way in which they understand a particular topic. So when you sit 4 of you or 6 of you to discuss a particular topic, each of the 6 individuals, each of the 6 students will be bringing their own different perspectives to that particular topic. You explain from your understanding. Each one of you will be explaining from the understanding. And that kind of a combination will ensure that each one of you will enrich your level of understanding of that particular topic. So study groups provide students an opportunity to benefit from the talents and knowledge of the other group members. Number three, study groups also provide a support system. Study groups provide what we call a support system. Because what you need to understand is that the school can be a very stressful area. It can be very stressful because even as you are preparing for, you are in Form 4, for example, and you are preparing for KCSE, sometimes you wake up at 4 in the morning, you sleep at 11, in between you are in class, lessons, consulting teachers, so there is a lot of stress. But sometimes when you join a group, then you realize that this stress can be reduced because a group discussion can provide what we call a support system. So joining a study group is a greater way to give and receive motivation from fellow students, because in the course of those group discussion, apart from discussing a content, even some of the members of the group can also encourage you, motivate you, inspire you when they realize that you are lagging behind in a specific area. Now, another benefit of a group discussion is you cover more material. In a group discussion, you cover more material. In my experience as a motivational speaker and as a teacher, I've come across students who are complaining, especially those students who are doing well in a particular subject. They have a perception that when they engage in a group discussion, they lose because they end up explaining to other students who may not reciprocate by also doing their part in explaining what they understand. But I want to challenge students that every student participating in a group discussion is going to benefit, is going to gain. Group discussion is a win-win kind of a situation. But the more important question that we need to ask is, how can we make group discussions to be productive and beneficial so that each of the students can be able to gain maximally from a group discussion? And I want actually just to advise like this. I'm saying another benefit of a group discussion is you cover more material. Because some students are always complaining, especially those who are doing very well. They say, oh, if I participate in a group discussion, I'll be wasting time because already I know the material. And the others, maybe they're not doing well in a particular subject. They just be sitting there waiting for me to explain to them, and then I'm wasting my time. But I want to tell you that group discussion is a win-win kind of a situation. Because as I said earlier, in a group discussion, it gives you an opportunity to explain what you know to your colleagues. And the more you explain, the more you understand. When you explain a concept to your colleagues, you end up understanding that concept more. But how can we make group discussions to be as beneficial as possible? This is the way to go. I've said in a group discussion, you need to be around 4 to 6 students. 4 to 6 students are advisable in a group discussion. So if, for example, you are 6 of you in a group discussion, and maybe you have agreed that on Tuesday evening for 1 hour, you are supposed to discuss, let's say, a topic like metals in chemistry. Before you meet for that group discussion, in advance, prior to meeting in that at maybe at 7 in the evening, in the course of the day, each of the members of the group should be given a subsection of the topic to research. If, as I said, the topic was metals, for example, maybe among the 6 of you, one of them should be research on lead, another one researches on zinc, another researches on iron, another researches on aluminium, another researches on copper, maybe another researches on another metal. So in the course of the day, you'll be doing that. Each one of you should be doing that kind of research. When you meet in the evening, what is going to happen is that the members of the group will simply be making a presentation. Maybe you divide, if it is 1 hour, and then you are 6 of you, each of you should be given just 10 minutes to make a presentation. So if, for example, you are researching on lead, you would have 10 minutes to make a presentation on lead. Like, for example, you begin with maybe the metal lead, the physical properties of lead, chemical properties of lead, reactivity of lead, extraction of lead, all those for 10 minutes. And as you're explaining, the other members of the group will be taking notes. After your 10 minutes, Another one who was supposed to present on Sing will do the same. Another one presenting on Sing for 10 minutes. So that you realize that within just 1 hour, a whole topic of metals would have been covered. And that is why you realize that in a short span of time, you end up covering more material. And that's actually the benefit of a group discussion. So for those students who initially they were reluctant to participate in a group discussion, this is a very concise explanation as to why group discussion is the way to go. Most of these students who are doing very well, most of these students who are getting A's in various subjects, it is because they are participating actively in a group discussion. In group discussion, they are given opportunities and platforms to explain what they know, and the more they explain what they know, the more they understand. And then another benefit of joining a group discussion is that it makes learning fun. It makes learning fun. Studying with a group is a great way to liven up your study sessions. You know, when you're studying alone, it can be monotonous. Sitting maybe for 2 hours, just studying alone. It can be monotonous. It can also drain your energy, and you may not cover a lot. But in a group discussion, it is lively. You are interacting with your colleagues. You are talking. You are explaining. You are expressing yourself. You are listening actively. So, and in a short span of time, you can actually be able to cover more material in a very fun way. And you realize that what you also need to understand as a student is that the brain is structured in such a way that it always likes change. It always likes change. So if you try to use the same strategy of revision every day, that you're always sitting down, writing short notes, sitting down, writing short notes, it becomes so boring, and the brain may not even be able to retain the material that you're revising. So we need to vary. Sometimes group discussion, sometimes teacher consultation, sometimes answering questions, sometimes maybe sitting down, drawing charts, flow charts. And then when you vary, that kind of a variation is so beneficial. So that's why I'm saying one of the benefits of a group discussion is that it makes learning fun. Now the second discussion, the second subsection to discuss on group discussion on using study groups is how to develop an effective study group. How do we develop an effective study groups so that from today moving forward, most of the study groups that we have in our schools are study groups that are productive, study groups that are beneficial, study groups where every member of the group will be able to benefit. So let me give recommendations for forming effective study groups. Number one, the first question you need to ask yourself as you're forming a study group is how many? Ask yourself how many. How many means how many members are advisable to form a group discussion. So, according to research, 4 to 6 students is suitable to form a group discussion, because less, and then you may not cover a lot. More, and it may not be productive. So, between 4 to 6 students is advisable to form a group. The second question to ask yourself as you're forming an effective study group is who? Who should be involved in this group discussion? Who? And then to answer that is the most effective study group is composed of members with a common goal. Form a study group comprising members who have the same goal and the same objective. Maybe one of them in that group, they want to get A's in that subject. They want to get A- and above in that subject. So form a group where the members are sharing a common goal, and that is to excel in that group. But you realize that in some other cases, maybe with the advice of the teachers, they can have a mix-up. They can have a mix-up of those who are doing very well in the subject and also those who are not doing very well in the subject. So that kind of a mix-up becomes a collaborative, where those who are doing well can also assist those who may not be doing very well. So we are not just saying that those who are doing very well should be in one group. Those who are doing poorly in another group, no. We can have a kind of a mixed ability grouping. Personally, I would recommend a mixed ability grouping where those who are doing very well are mixed with those who may not be doing very well in the subject, so that in the course of that discussion, those who are not doing very well can gain from those who are doing very well. And also what you need to also understand is that those who are even doing very well can also gain something from these who are not doing well, because even those who are not doing well, there is something that they can explain. They can struggle and explain something, and it can also benefit those who are doing very well. Another question to ask yourself as you are forming an effective study group is where? Where means, where is this study group supposed to take place? Where is it supposed to take place? There should be a specific area designated for members of a group to sit and discuss. So maybe in a class, maybe you can sit, you can maybe designate a particular area, maybe a corner in a classroom, a certain corner in a classroom, away from the rest of the group, and then the 6 of you can sit, or the 4 of you can sit away from others, and you can be able to discuss. Another question to ask yourself as you're forming a group is when. When means which time are you supposed to be discussing? Which time are you supposed to be carrying a group discussion? And as you are answering this question of when, maybe the advice I'm giving you is that these groups that you form should be permanent. Don't form a group for just a single day. It should be permanent, maybe even for the whole term, or even for the whole year, or even for the whole 4 years that you're in school. And once these groups that have been formed are permanent for a specific subject, you can also come up with a timetable. When are you supposed to be meeting to discuss a particular subject? Maybe for chemistry, for the group discussion for chemistry, you can say we will be meeting every day on Wednesday between 7 and 8 in the evening. And then you say you also designate a place where you're supposed to be meeting, so that even every member of the group will know that on Wednesday from 7 to 8, it is a discussion group for chemistry, and we are 6 in a group. And then also you also need to know what are you supposed to be discussing every week. You designate, maybe you can say you can actually identify a topic, and before that meeting, each one of you can actually be able to be given a subsection of that topic to research, so that when you meet, you are simply doing a presentation. Now let's look at how to maximize the value of the study groups. Because these study groups, once they are formed, they are supposed to give value to the participants. Participants are supposed to gain value out of these group discussions. So how do we maximize the value? How can we gain more value out of these group discussions? So the following are strategies for maximizing the effectiveness of studying in groups. Number 1 is create a clear objectives and goals. Create a clear objectives and goals. And you see, before a session of a group discussion, group members should discuss what they hope to achieve. Like for example, you are sitting for 1 hour. As I'm using chemistry as an example, you want to discuss maybe metals. You need to come up with an objective before you begin that discussion. Come up with an objective. At the end of the 1 hour discussing the topic of metals in chemistry, what should each member of the group should be able to learn? What should be able to learn and acquire in that 1 hour of presentation? Maybe the objective would be at the end of the 1 hour discussion, we should be able to learn the physical properties, chemical properties, chemical properties, extraction, reactivity of the following metals, maybe zinc, copper, lead, aluminium, and the others. So that is the objective. So that at the end of the 1 hour, those are the things you need to have learned. Another way to maximize the effectiveness of a group is always to be prepared. Always to be prepared. So group study can be very ineffective if individual members come unprepared for sessions. So I'm urging members of a group to obtain maximum value out of groups. Every member of the group should come prepared. And how do you come prepared? As I said earlier, if you are discussing a particular topic, every member of the group should be given a section of that topic to research. And before you meet, you should have done thorough research. So that when you meet, you come prepared with what you're supposed to research, you just come and you make a presentation. That's being prepared. And then another way to gain value out of the group, to maximize the value of the group, is to stay focused. You know, sometimes some of the group discussions, they lose meaning. Because members of the group, they sit down and they give stories. They become idle stories, make noise, and then the 1 hour is completely lost. No value is gained. So to avoid a scenario like that, for this, every group should have a group leader. Appoint a group leader for every group. And that group leader should be the one managing the group. And the person charged for leading the session must ensure that it is productive, the session stays on track, and all necessary material is covered. That is the leader of the group, the leader of the session. You are going a leader of the session to ensure that everybody comes prepared, that the session is on track, you are not losing track, no noise making, no stories. And also for the 1 hour that you are sitting to discuss, the material that was supposed to be discussed was actually discussed. And then lastly, let's look at, let me discuss 10 tips to study effectively before exams if you have a lot of syllabus to cover. 10 tips to study effectively before exams if you have a lot of syllabus left. You know, the biggest challenge students have is that at the beginning of the term, the first week, the second week, the third week, most of them are just idle. They are not serious, they are not studying, they are not managing their time, and most of them will just wait until the teacher says, we have a cut next week, and then they become serious to revise for the cut. Maybe you have an exam, end-term exam, you only revise for the end-term exam. That's a very poor way of conducting yourself as a student, and that's a very poor way of actually organizing yourself and studying in school. I always advise students that once you report for a new term, be serious for that term. Ensure that you begin serious revision from the first day that you report in school, and you revise continuously throughout the term. Whether there is an exam, there is no exam, you are always revising. And once you do that, you can actually be able to cover a lot of material. You will be revising what the teachers are teaching, you are reviewing what the teachers are teaching, revising, writing short notes, and then you are always prepared. But I want to give you some of the 10 tips to study effectively before exams if you have a lot of syllabus left. Number 1 is study smaller portions. Study smaller portions. You know, the mistake most of the students make is that they study while rushing. They are just rushing. As you find the student says, in chemistry, I want to study 2 topics today. And then you find the student is sitting for 3 hours only studying chemistry. 3 hours continuously. That's a very poor way of revising. What happens is that you study small portions of the syllabus. It's better, like for example, if you are dealing with, let's say, one concept. It's a very wide topic in chemistry. You break that topic of one concept into small sections. And then you tell yourself that if you're supposed to be studying chemistry every day, you only study a small section per day. The next day, another small section. Because you realize that when you study a small section of a particular subject, then you realize that the brain can actually internalize. And that information that you are studying can be put in the short-term memory. And once it is in the short-term memory, it can easily be transferred to the long-term memory. Maybe I'll give you the difference between the short-term memory and long-term memory. What you are revising is always placed in the short-term memory. And then once it is in the short-term memory, it has to be transferred to the long-term memory. It is the information that you have in the long-term memory that you use it to answer questions in an exam. You recall that information from the long-term memory and then you use it to study in an exam. And that's why, for example, the brain always likes to internalize materials in small bits. So don't sit down and study continuously, maybe 6 hours just a single subject. It may not be productive. You're just wasting a lot of time. So every topic, break it into small portions, and then you'll be studying a small portion per day, and then the brain can actually be able to internalize that. Number 2 is don't study more than 2 hours at a stretch. The optimal, according to research, the optimal period of continuous study is 2 hours. You are allowed to sit and revise for 2 hours. But you realize that the 2 hours needs to be broken down. If you are if you are revising for 2 hours, those 2 hours must be broken down into slots of 25 minutes. So after every 25 minutes, you give yourself a break of 5 to 10 minutes. You study for 25 minutes, you give a break of 5 minutes. Another 25 minutes, another break of 5 minutes. Another 25 minutes, another break of 5 minutes, until the 2 hours is over. And that's when now the brain, the brain needs to internalize the material, to retain the material, to store the material, and then there is also an interval of relaxation. The brain also needs to relax. Number 3 is give your mind regular breaks. Give your mind regular breaks. In this case, you should keep your mind free from exam-related thoughts or stress. If you use prep time, like for example, if you have been revising for 2 hours, but of course, you're giving yourself a break of 5 minutes. And then after the 2 hours, you can decide to give yourself a break of, let's say 30 minutes. When you go now for 30 minutes after revising for 2 hours, don't go and begin discussing with your friends, maybe the syllabus, or begin discussing what you're revising. No, just allow your brain to relax. Just go out. If you can you can go to the field, maybe just run, maybe play some football, allow time to relax, so that when you come back, your mind is free of the stress, and then you can be focused. Number 4 is focus on core material. The syllabus is broken down into 2 types, the core material and elaborative material. So we are saying, if you have a lot of syllabus left to cover and you have short time to exams, you can focus on what we call the core material. Because according to research, 80% of the questions that you meet in exams come from the core material of the syllabus. And 20% of the questions in exams will come from elaborative material of the syllabus. And let me give a distinction between core material and elaborative material of the syllabus. The study material in the syllabus can be divided into core material and elaborative material. While the core material consists of important principles, so the core material of the syllabus consists of important principles, theories, theorems, formulae, important diagrams and graphs. They form what we call the core material of the syllabus. Elaborative material of the syllabus involves some examples, quotes, illustrations, etc. They are just elaborative. They try to add value to the material, to the core material. More than 80% of the questions in exams are likely to come from the core material. So you realize that if you have less time to cover the syllabus, maybe you are approaching exams, you can decide to concentrate on the core material of the syllabus, because it's going to comprise 80% of the questions that you're going to get in exams. Number 5 is you can also shift between subject categories. You can shift between subject categories. Is that like for example, if you are in Form 4, I know you are taking 8 subjects in KCSE. You have the languages, you have the humanities, and you have the sciences. But you see, these subjects can be broken into 3 parts. These subjects can be broken into 3 parts. The first is the memory-dependent subjects. Memory-dependent subjects are those subjects like biology, history, geography, CRE. They require a lot of memorizing information and data. It requires a lot of storing information in your mind, recalling information through memory. So those are the subjects memory dependent, and then there are those problem solving subjects. We have the problem solving subjects, and the problem solving subjects includes maths, physics, and chemistry. Those are the subjects that require you to solve problems. In chemistry, you're solving a lot of problems. Physics, you're solving a lot of problems. In mathematics, you're solving a lot of problems. Those subjects are referred to as problem-solving subjects. And then we have the interpretation-based subjects. Interpretation-based subjects include the English literature. We have also the FASI, the languages, Kiswahili and English, and also the Farsi and literature, they require a lot of interpretation. So as you are deciding your study timetable, because you're supposed to actually to adhere to your study timetable, as you are deciding your study timetable, you need to design your study timetable in such a way that you are shifting from a memory-dependent subject to a problem-solving subject and to now an interpretation subject. Like for example, if you wake up very early in the morning, you can decide to start with a problem-solving subject like maths, maybe for 1 hour. After 1 hour, of course, you give yourself a break of, let's say, 10 minutes. And then you come to, let's say, a memory-dependent subject. Maybe you begin studying history. From maths, you study history. When you finish history after 1 hour, maybe, and if you still have time, you also go for another 10 minutes of break. If you still have time, you come now to an interpretation-based subject. You can maybe decide to read a set book, and then maybe analyze a set book. So you see, you have moved, you have shifted from a problem-solving subject, which is maths, to a memory-dependent subject, which is history, and then to an interpretation-based subject, which is like English literature or Farsi. So that at least that variation can actually be internalized more by the mind. Number 6 is learn and write. You see, we always advise students that there is what we call the rule of the pen and the paper. The rule of the pen and the paper. What it means is that every time you are studying, you need to have a pen and where to write on. So that as you are studying, you can be highlighting and writing down important points of the topic. Important points of the topic. Because according to research has indicated that anything you write down, you cannot forget. Anything you write down, you cannot forget. So writing down information or writing down notes is part of learning. So as you read chapters, you also need to be writing important points. This helps a lot to retain information. Number 7 is use note-taking strategies. Use strategies of writing notes. Use proven note-taking strategies. So, and I want to say that proper note-taking is important for effective completing the syllabus at the last minute. And there are 2 important scientifically proven methods of taking notes or writing notes. The first one is called SQ5R. The first strategy of note-taking is called SQ5R. And SQ5R is just an acronym. What does SQ5R mean? In short, S means survey, Q means questions, and the 5R is read, record, recite, review, and reflect. So that is SQ5R in full. I repeat, SQ5R in full means when you are reading, and taking notes, first of all, the first step is to survey the chapter that you are supposed to study. And then the second step is to ask yourself the questions. There are certain questions that you need to ask yourself as you are reviewing a chapter. And then the third one is you read, you record now by writing, you recite, you can even speak loudly. You recite, and then you review what you have written down, and then you can reflect. Reflecting is that at the end of the chapter, try to ask yourself whether you have understood the material that you are studying. And let's look at it in detail. Survey means you skim through the text and mark important areas. Like for example, you're studying a particular topic. Before you can begin reading it, just skim through, just survey. You can spend just between 7 and 10 minutes. You skim through the chapter or the topic. You don't need to take more than 7 to 10 minutes. And then questions is, in your notebook, turn the headings into questions. Like for example, in the topic, you have the heading and you have the subheadings. The subheadings in the topic, turn those subheadings in the topics into questions. Turn every subheading in the topic into questions that could be asked in an exam. Jot down possible questions at the side of important portions of the text. And then read, record, and recite. You go through the text again, and you begin writing down important points in your own words separately. Write down important points only in your own words. You can put them in bullet or in points form for better visualization. You can also recite the points you noted for yourself. Reciting means you can speak them loudly. Speak them loudly. You read and you speak so that you can also hear the material. And then review. Review means you ask yourself the questions you noted and see if you can answer them properly. Because you said at the beginning of the topic, you can turn some of the subheadings into questions, so that at the end of the study of the topic, you try to ask yourself whether you can answer the questions that you are initially set in that topic. And if you can be able to answer all those questions, then it actually means you have understood that topic. Reflect. Reflect means you repeat the steps on the topic you learn till it is completely memorized. And then there is another way of writing notes. It's called Cornell notes. Cornell notes is an effective 3-column configuration of taking notes, which makes memorizing and recalling information much easier. Which means that in where you are writing on, you can draw 3 columns. You can draw 3 columns like this in your where you are writing, so that on this part you are writing the short notes. On the other part, you are writing the questions. You are writing the questions that you'll be asking yourself. So that when revising, you can easily answer the questions on the left. The questions that you had actually written on that left column. Because initially, first of all, before you study the topic, write all the questions that you are anticipating in that kind of a chapter. And as the way you write questions that you are anticipating in the chapter is you are turning some headings into questions, and you write them on the left hand side of the column. And then and then on the right hand side, you try to answer those questions that you had initially written on the left hand side. Number 8 is use visual cues. Use visual cues. You know, in your room, of course, some of us, if you are a day scholar, for example, you are studying in your room. Or if you are a boarder, of course, you have your locker. You can stick some charts. You can stick some charts on your wall or on top of your locker. On top of your locker, you can write dates, formulae, and bits of information that are very difficult to learn. Keep those in front of your eyes all the time, and it will help you to understand the material easily. Number 9 is revise within 24 hours. If you are studying chapters that you are not, if you are studying chapters that you are never gone through, then you realize that you need to repeat the same revision in that chapter within the next 24 hours. So that if you don't do that, you may easily lose 80% of the content that you are revised. So I'm saying if you are studying untitled chapters or uncovered syllabus in the last few days to an exam, you need to know the 3 R's are important. And you know the 3 R's are to recap, review, and reinforce. Use the 3 R's. Recap is to go through the entire chapter. Review is try to ask yourself whether you have understood the questions that are being asked in that chapter. And reinforce is to go through the chapter again until you have understood within 24 hours. If you fail to do so, you lose 80% of the material. And then number 10 is you need to sleep well. You know, there are those students who don't sleep. They put what we call all-nighters. They want to revise the whole night. And you see, revising the whole night is not productive. Because according to research, you need 7 to 8 hours of sleep. And the advantage of having 7 to 8 hours of sleep every night is what you need to understand is, according to research, the material that you are revising is put in the short-term memory. But when you have enough sleep of 7 to 8 hours, that material that was in the short-term memory, in the course of you sleeping, it will be transferred to the long-term memory. It will be stored in the long-term memory. And once the material is transferred to the long-term memory, you can now be able to use that material in the long-term memory to answer questions during an exam. And that is why sleep is so important, because it allows the transfer of information or the material that you are revising from the short-term memory to long-term memory. And once the material is in the long-term memory, you can now use it to answer questions in an exam. And lastly here, I want to say one of the quick tests that can help you to know how much you have learned is trying to explain concepts of a topic to someone who doesn't know it yet. And this is very critical, especially you do this one in a group discussion. In a group discussion, you have that opportunity of explaining what you know to your colleagues. And the more you explain what you know to your colleagues, the more you understand. So if you have to know whether you have understood a particular material, whether you have understood a subtopic, whether you have understood a topic, try to explain that particular topic to your colleagues, or try to explain that particular subtopic to your colleague. And if you can be able to explain it very well, then it is an indication that you have understood that particular topic. Now let's discuss how to improve reading comprehension. How to improve comprehension reading skills. Because I understand some of the students have serious challenges when it comes to reading a chapter and retaining the material that they are revising. In my motivational talk in most of the schools, the challenge that the students are always raising, students are asking, I'm studying a particular chapter, at the end of the chapter, I cannot understand what I was revising. I can't retain the material I was revising. And the question they're always asking is, what is the problem? I'm working hard, but I'm not passing exams. I'm working hard, I'm not improving. I'm working hard in history, but I'm still at a D. I'm working hard in geography, I'm still at a D+. What is the missing link? What is the problem? The problem is maybe they have not internalized the strategies of reading and understanding comprehending the material that they are reading. So how to improving reading comprehension? Number one is do what we call pre-reading survey. Pre-reading survey. And what is pre-reading survey? Pre-reading survey means before reading a text. You know, some of us, we just open a text, we just open a topic, and we go through the topic. There are some steps that we need to use. When you open a chapter, you want to read a particular topic, there are some steps that you need to take. And the first step is what we call pre-reading. That is why I'm saying before reading a text, complete a pre-reading survey for summary of it. This will give you an idea of what to expect in the text so that your reading will be more productive. Your reading will become more productive if you do what we call a pre-reading survey. And what is this pre-reading survey? Pre-reading survey means you review the introduction, because every topic has an introduction. Before you read, go to the introduction, read the introduction. And you see the introduction of the topic gives you an overview of what you expect in that topic. After reading the introduction, just survey and look at the table of contents in that topic. You know, every topic has a table of contents. Look at the table of contents of the topic. And you see, when you look at the table of the contents, it gives you an idea of the content that is being explained in that topic. You'll have a rough idea of what exactly you are expecting in that topic. And then next you read the section. You read the section and the chapter headings. Read the sections and the chapter headings, because every chapter has some sub-headings. Just try to go through the sub-headings. And after going through the sub-headings, also go through the materials within the chapter that are highlighted in bold. If there is any material within that chapter that is highlighted in bold, also go through that material. So that's what we call pre-reading. And this pre-reading of the chapter should not even take more than 10 minutes. And within that 10 minutes, you've actually known exactly what to expect in that chapter without even going through it. So the following is a list of specific things that you need to look over and perform when performing a pre-reading survey. So when you are performing a pre-reading survey, this is what you're supposed to do for those 10 minutes that you are performing a pre-reading survey. The first one is chapter and subtitle. This provides you with the overall topic of the chapter and providing a reading direction. Because I'm telling you, when you're doing a pre-reading survey, just read the chapter of the topic, read the introduction of the topic, and read the subsection, and go through go through the table of contents, and also go through the subheadings. And number 2 is focus on questions at the beginning of each chapter. You know, in some textbooks, at the beginning of every chapter, there are some questions that are being asked. There are some questions that are being asked at the beginning of every chapter. And those questions that are being asked at the beginning of every chapter is supposed to guide you and make you understand exactly what are you supposed to expect as you are reading the chapter, what material is important, what are you supposed to understand. Another thing you also need to understand as you are reading you are carrying out a pre-reading survey is the chapter introductions and the first chapter paragraphs. So in this case, I've said in the pre-reading survey, just read the entire introduction of the chapter. It gives you an overview of what to expect. And then this chapter also has subheadings in that topic. Also, read the first paragraph of every subheading. At least it will also be able to guide you. You can also read the bold-faced subheadings. Just read all the subheadings in that chapter. You can also read the first sentence of each paragraph. In that topic, the entire topic, always read the first sentence of every paragraph. What you need to understand is that the first sentence of each paragraph usually introduces the central thought of the paragraph. So in every paragraph of the topic, just read the first sentence, because that first sentence introduces the central thought, the real information that is supposed to be conveyed in that paragraph. And then also go through the visual aids that are supplied in that topic. The visual aids can be in form of a table. It can be in form of numberings. You can have some information that are provided in numbering 1, 2, 3, 4. Go through it. Some information is provided in a bulleted form. Just go through it. Some information is provided in form of graphs. Go through it. Some information is provided in form of diagrams. Go through it. In maps. Go through it. It gives you a gist of what you are expecting in that topic. You can also, in the pre-reading survey, you can also read the last paragraph of the chapter. Read the last paragraph of the chapter. Because the last paragraph, sometimes textbooks will provide a study material at the end of each chapter. You review those materials. Number 2, at the pre-reading survey, number 2 is define your purpose. Define your purpose. And as you're defining a purpose, what you need to understand is that many textbooks contain information and details which are unrelated with the most important concepts and ideas that are being portrayed in that chapter. And to guide you to define your purpose, it is advisable to get guidance from the teacher or also have the syllabus, because there is always the syllabus. Every subject has a syllabus, has a booklet containing the syllabus. And this booklet containing the syllabus is prepared by the Kenya National Examination Council. It can also be provided by the Kenya Institute of Curricular Development. So you can have the next syllabus, the syllabus from the Kenya National Examination Council, and also the syllabus from the KICD. KICD also provides the syllabus. So this syllabus guides you so that some students, you can study the whole textbook or the whole chapter. But most of the material you are studying will not be set in an exam. So you'll be wasting a lot of time. So as you are revising a topic, get guidance first of all from the teacher. Which parts of the topic is important so that you get information on that topic. Or if you don't get the information from the teacher, get access to the next syllabus or access to KICD syllabus so that you narrow down in a topic what are you supposed to understand. There's some information that you need to, there's some objectives that you need to understand in a topic. So narrow down to the objectives of the topic so that you don't waste time in studying everything. But you see now when a teacher is teaching, your teachers are basing on the next syllabus or on the KICD syllabus. And that is why the notes that you are taking in class are the notes that have the objectives. It has been narrowed down by the teacher. But sometimes when you want to revise, to read a topic on your own, a chapter on your own in a textbook, it is also good, very first of all, to consult your teachers on the important parts of the topic that you need to understand. Number 3 is read the text. Read the text. Now that you have completed your pre-reading survey and you have defined your purpose, it's time to sit down and read the text. Read the text. And you see, as you are reading the text, what are you supposed to do as you are reading the text? Now you come to number 4. You need to read the text. Number 4, you read and take notes. Number 4 is take notes. You are reading and you are writing notes. And what is the importance of reading and writing notes? Reading and writing notes is because research has demonstrated beyond reasonable doubt. Research has demonstrated that every time you write notes, you cannot forget the material that you are writing. You are reading. So writing notes is part of learning. Writing notes is part of retaining the material for future recall. And when you write notes, and you see, writing notes, that's why we say every time you're studying, you need to observe the rule of the pen and the paper. You observe the rule of the pen and the paper. You are studying as you write short notes. You are studying as you write important points in that topic that you are studying. And number 5 is post-reading review. You do what we call post-reading review. There was a pre-reading review. There was a pre-reading survey. The last one now is post-reading review. What is this post-reading review? Post-reading review is that after reading a text, you take time to identify what you have learned and the important takeaways. At the end of the topic, ask yourself, what have you learned from this topic? The mistake most students make is that you just cover a topic and you throw away your books and you go to another subject. When you finish reading a topic, take around 10 minutes to do what we call post-reading review. Ask yourself, have you understood the topic? And one of the ways that it's going to guide you to know whether you have understood the topic is the questions that were asked at the beginning of the topic. Try to go through those questions that were asked at the beginning of the topic. Those questions that were asked at the beginning of the topic will guide you to know whether you have understood the topic. If you can be able to answer all those questions that were set at the beginning of the topic, then it is an indication that you understood the topic. But if you cannot be able to answer those questions that were asked either at the beginning of the topic or at the end of the topic, you cannot be able to answer those questions, then it means you have not understood the topic. So always try to go through the topics, not the questions at the beginning of the topic or the questions at the end of the topic, so that you can try to ask yourself, have you understood? And if you can be able to answer those questions, then it actually tells you that you have understood the topic. So thank you very much. Be blessed. I'm very sure there are a lot of takeaways that you have taken from this topic. Things will not be the same again. The strategies I've enumerated is going to assist you in a big way to be able to take your learning to another level. Thank you very much, and God bless.